Just ahead on American Black Journal, we're going to talk about the outlook for African American business owners in Michigan and get some firsthand advice on how to become a successful entrepreneur. Plus, we'll look at a career option that's sometimes referred to as the other four-year degree. Stay right there. American Black Journal starts now.
American Black Journal is funded by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first.
How does diversity bring energy to us all? At DTE Energy, we believe that it's the contributions of all that build great communities. As a company, we grow stronger by welcoming the unique perspectives of everyone. As community members, we support our state's broad culture and heritage. From working closely with women and minority-owned suppliers to embracing our local cultures, DTE Energy is powering diversity. The DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public Television.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. We're coming to you from the Business Leaders for Michigan CEO Summit at the Westin Book Cadillac in downtown Detroit. This annual gathering brings together leaders from top businesses and universities to discuss ways to grow Michigan's economy. My first guest is a member of the organization, and he's the head of a successful group of companies that offer manufacturing and supply chain services. I'd like to welcome Joseph Anderson Jr. to American Black Journal. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of change in Michigan over the last 6 years in terms of the business climate. Governor Rick Snyder came to office saying he was going to help local businesses that were already here, grow instead of trying to attract all the time new businesses with incentives. Talk about some of the things that have worked and maybe some of the things that haven't worked so well.
Well, some of the things that have worked is a return to health of the automobile industry. And that has made those of us who are suppliers in the automobile industry have the opportunity to grow our businesses consistent with the increase in volume of the auto industry. Other industries have been very aggressive in coming into Michigan, like defense and aerospace and so forth. And many of we historic automotive suppliers have found that other industries are very attracted to us because of the skills we have developed as automotive suppliers.
Right, so this is a period of growth.
It is a period of opportunity and diversification. And so no longer are we only automotive suppliers, but I supply aerospace and defense and heavy equipment and so forth.
The tax environment has changed a lot, primarily because of the governor's policies. The idea there was to grow jobs, that with lower taxes, businesses were expected to employ more people. Is that we aren't seeing that happen overall the way we thought it would? Talk about your industry.
Well, my perspective is, again, related to the automobile industry. There is definitely growth. And then in aerospace, you also are finding opportunities. Other industries like the mining and oil, infrastructure and so forth are much slower. So there's some very strong environments and then some that are still challenged.
You are a successful minority business owner. Talk about the path you took to where you are.
Well, I had probably a unique path in that I came out of the military. I went to West Point and learned a lot of management and leadership skills in the Army. And then I joined General Motors, where I learned how to manufacture product. And then after 13 years in General Motors, I bought my first company. And some 22 years later, I have owned and operated 14 different companies.
One of the things we talk about when we talk about the growth of minority businesses is the challenges that still exist, the barriers that still exist to those things. One of them is access to capital. Talk about in those early years how you got that.
Well, in the early years, a primary source of capital was bank debt. And I learned very quickly that's not a good source of capital. I then began to identify individuals who were willing to invest in and bet on me. And so the friends and family scenario. Now there are private equity sources for capital for small businesses, minority businesses, and so forth. But it's still a challenge, needless to say.
When you think about the path that you took, it's a product almost of its time, right? I mean,
Exactly.
these were the kinds of opportunities that existed. Have they changed a lot? I mean, if you were talking to somebody who was 23 or 24 right now, who wanted to be in your position in 20 or 30 years, what would be the things that person might go do?
Well, the thing I would give them the most solid direction on is to identify a product or service that is a differentiator. A commodity always is a function of low price.
Right.
And so technology is absolutely critical, and there's a lot of reflection on that in this panel and conference today for business leaders from Michigan.
Yeah.
And then understand what the market is and where it's going so that you are focused on the future as opposed to the history that existed in the auto industry and others.
Yeah, the idea of entrepreneurship, a lot of times I think people think, well, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to go do it on my own. Your path, though, was through first working for a huge company, at that time probably the largest company in the country. Talk about the difference there. I mean, is it possible to be an entrepreneur without that experience, or is it easier if you are first part of a big corporation?
I just chaired a technology panel for the business leaders from Michigan, and the three young panel members there were in technology spaces that are not a part of the auto industry or even aerospace and defense and so forth. And so they are going to be successful and are successful as a function of them being creative enough and innovative enough to do something new and different that will help those big customers.
Yeah.
They're not trying to make products for General Motors. They're trying to provide products and services that will make General Motors better.
Right. Talk about how technology has changed your sector. I mean, when I grew up here in Detroit, I knew lots of people who worked for auto suppliers or who owned auto suppliers. I imagine that looks totally different today than it did then.
You're absolutely correct. And one of the challenges that we have and that we're working on in Michigan is having a workforce that is educated enough and learned enough to use technology. The history back in the 70s and 80s of being strong enough to work in the auto industry has passed.
Yeah.
Now you have to be able to use data and understand the business and the products that you're working on with data.
Yeah, and we're not making that transition the way we need to, not just for the population here, but also for the business climate. I feel like we're falling behind in sort of turning education to focusing on those things.
Well, I would absolutely agree, and that's why the business leaders from Michigan is absolutely focused on education as a key to the success of those of us who are owning and operating companies.
Yeah.
And we need employees that have the ability to manage the technology and the data that's critical to the business success and therefore their own personal success.
Yeah. When you talk about education, do you think it's about investment and money? I mean, we're certainly falling behind that way as a state, or is it more a question of what we're doing with that money and investment? In other words, how we're framing the K-12 system and higher ed to focus on the things that the business needs?
I think it's more a function of having the K-12 system be effective and efficient.
Yeah.
When we have someone in the third grade, they need to be able to read at the third grade level. When they get to the 6th or 9th grade, they need to be able to read at the 6th or 9th grade level.
Right.
And so the effectiveness of our system to assure that our young people, students, are keeping up is absolutely critical.
Yeah. The Business Leaders for Michigan, as you point out, has an agenda that it would like to see the state pursue. We've gotten some of those things checked off, not others. Talk about what we need to do to move government, I guess, more into that space.
Well, we need to pay attention as individuals and companies to what is going on in the state legislature and in the national legislature, and be prepared to speak out and encourage our employees to talk to their representatives as we as individual business leaders talk to individuals to support the things that are going to make education and access to capital available.
Are there specific things that you feel business still needs from either state government or federal government that would help in that regard?
We certainly need to have the level of funding that is available in these inner city schools be sufficient and comparable, and the use of that capital as compared to other areas in the state be effective.
Yeah, and that's something we keep talking about, but never really get to the point of doing something.
I don't know that we have a good answer to that yet, but we absolutely need to keep focusing on that.
All right, thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure, thank you.
All right, coming up next on American Black Journal, a national effort to get more people interested in the skilled trades industry. But first, here's a look at some important moments in Detroit's Black history.
I'm Ken Coleman with a look back at African American life in Detroit. This week in 1968, Diana Ross and the Supremes' Love Child was released.
You think that I don't feel love, but what I feel for you is real love. In those eyes I see reflected, I heard scorn, rejected love child. Never meant to be love child, born in poverty.
In 1978, attorney and political strategist Robert Millender died. And in 1999, Mayor Dennis Archer was on hand as construction began on Ford Field, the home of the Detroit Lions. These are significant events this week in Detroit's Black history, taken from the book On This Day, African American Life in Detroit.
There's no question Detroit is in the middle of a building boom. From the Little Caesars Arena to new housing units and restaurant, the city's landscape is changing dramatically. As a result, there are plenty of job opportunities in construction and transportation. However, the supply of skilled tradespeople is not keeping up with the demand. As National Apprenticeship Week gets underway, there's a push to promote the skilled trades as a viable career option. Joining me now are three people with a stake in these efforts. Robert Davis is with the Michigan Department of Transportation. Dennis Mitchell is Diversity Manager at Barton Mallow, and Eric Garrett is an apprentice at Cadillac Asphalt. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you very much.
So this is a topic that I think is super important to the narrative of the city as it moves forward. It's about participation. It's about making sure that people who live here have an opportunity to benefit from the things that are going on. These jobs, though, require that you have some preparation. You can't just walk through the door and get one. And so many of the folks in the city don't have that opportunity. You guys are obviously focused on turning that around. Get them the training so that they can get the jobs.
And that's an important point. I mean, first of all, we've been doing this for about 5 years now with the Michigan Department of Transportation works with what's called the Partnership for Opportunity and Diversity in Transportation. And basically, National Apprenticeship Week is really to heighten awareness on the importance of preparation.
Yeah.
One of the missing components, Steve, that we've struggled with for a very, very long time is the community's response.
Yes.
Many people sit at home thinking, well, I'd like to do that. I'd like to build a stadium. I'd like to build a bridge, but I can't.
Yeah.
It's just like if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a dentist, you've got to prepare yourself.
Yeah.
And so the big message that we think is so important is to put out, and that's what National Apprenticeship Week is doing, is heightening the awareness of preparation. What do I need to do to become an electrician, a journeyman, a high-low driver? What do I need to do to prepare myself for the opportunity? And you can't just show up ready.
Yeah. Dennis, Barton Mallow is, of course, very involved in a lot of the construction projects around town, and apprenticeship is one of the things you guys have focused on to try to get people through the door, into the pipeline, right? To not just to work on a project now, but one in the future.
So as you mentioned earlier, we are facing an economic boom, but in our industry alone, we're facing a trade labor shortage.
Yeah.
So a key focus, as Robert mentioned, is heightening awareness, creating awareness, but again, educating people on the various trades that make up construction. So we're talking over 20 different trades. It's one thing to say that you want a construction job, but to understand what that job entails, meaning extreme working conditions, an entrance exam. We tell people you have to prepare for the trades just as you would prepare to go to college.
Yeah.
So just like you have to take the SAT and ACT, you have to take an entrance exam, and there's an application process and an interview process. So just educating the public on what that really means has been key.
Yeah, and it's not easy, right? I mean, you have to stick to it, keep at it, and there are going to be some setbacks. Talk about your journey to where you are.
I started out wanting to just get a chance with either helping build the new arena or the M1 rail. and the apprenticeship program actually got me to where I'm doing asphalt, something that we all complain about in Michigan, the streets. So I figured that helping with the streets instead of helping with arena or the transportation would be better for me, because I could say, hey, this is the street that I drove myself and I complained about.
Right.
Now I'm able to fix it. So
Now I can make that
I have
better.
nothing to complain about no more.
Yeah, and talk about your job. Talk about the stability of that job, the sort of reward of doing that job. I think a lot of people think, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be in that kind of that kind of work. But it really is something you can count on.
Yes, it's something that I can go, because I can rely on it, because every year when the summer breaks out and when the spring comes, we're working on the streets. Michigan needs a lot of work on the streets, so I don't think it's going nowhere anytime soon. And it's freshly built stuff that takes parking lots and subdivisions that take asphalt.
Right.
So,
And what we're talking about is portals of entry.
Right.
I mean, there's either
How do you get from
how
here
do you
to there?
get there? You know, there's union jobs, there's non-union jobs. There's skilled labor, there's unskilled labor. There are credentialed, college-educated positions. There are positions that don't require a degree. And what we are saying with the apprenticeship program, it's the other 4-year degree. I mean, in other words, you have to invest some time, some energy, but you're learning and earning at the same time. And when you graduate or finish, you don't have this huge bill that you typically would have if you went to college.
You're not borrowing lots of money
Absolutely.
to do it.
But you're learning on the job training. But again, it's an investment, and it's you have to make a conscious decision. This is something I want to do. This is something I want to attempt to do, but it's something I'm going to commit to do, and that's what's really important. Because business is in business for one reason only. That's the bottom line, to make money.
Sure.
So you've got to be able to understand safety. You've got to be safe and show up ready to work. You've got to understand productivity is important, quality is important, and then bottom line, how much profit can that company make as a result of hiring you? Those are some critical things that most employers look for.
I'm curious about the role of K-12 in getting people in the frame of mind to consider these kind of jobs. I feel like we're not doing a great job in Michigan.
There's been a natural
preparing people for
devolution
that.
in education. I mean, we have been so focused on sending people to college for so many, many years, and the education community has been rewarded for that.
Right.
When I was in school, there was vocational training. I took a sewing class, a cooking class, a automotive class, a print class, a shop class. So I had options back when I was in school 20 years ago. 30 years actually, but that's okay.
Hey, Robert, they had them 10 years ago when I was still in school.
But we had more options then, and I think the community has to demand that. Randolph, for example, is a great education center with the potential of preparing a lot of students. So the community has to just demand more of the system.
Well, that's part of the reason why we're hosting the Apprenticeship Expo at Randolph next Thursday from 5 to 7, because it is important to educate the parents. So for many years, our parents educated us on going to college, and it took away from the building trades industry. Now we're faced with that challenge of trying to turn the needle back to let everyone know that skilled trades jobs can provide a viable and sustainable career for you and your family. So starting with the parents and educating them is what we're really going to be focused on next Thursday from 5 to 7 at Randolph, and that's at 1701 Hubble, right on the corner of 6 Mile and Hubble. I'm a Randolph graduate, so it's very important to me.
So that's really interesting.
I'm a dual DPS graduate, so graduate of Renaissance High School, but also Randolph Career and Tech Center. And during that time when I was in school, we had the opportunity to take classes at Randolph while we were in high school. And that's something that the DPS, the school system overall, has gotten away from over the years. So we're really trying to get them back to that point, because my parents were very supportive of vocational skills. My dad was in the skilled trades. So there's knowledge that's there. There are sustainable careers that come out of the skilled trades. And I mean, essentially, construction isn't this dirty job that everyone thinks it is. So a large part of our interest is focused on educating the public that construction is more than just getting dirty. It's a viable career.
It's a very viable career. Not only that, Stephen, I think, if you think about the word innovation, and I think, at this summit, they've been focusing on innovation. It's how do you create something new? Detroit is the birthplace of the automobile manufacturing in a mass way. We're the birthplace of music. Motown sound emancipated the world with good music. So I think the next innovation wave, if you will, is entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
How do you work for yourself? How do you present? I mean, a carpenter can be a carpenter anywhere.
Yes.
I mean, if jobs are absorbed in Michigan, they can go south and there's a job someplace.
Somebody needs a carpenter.
It is a great innovation tool for us to think about
And that's
remanufacturing ourselves.
It's a really interesting way to look at these jobs as entrepreneurial.
Yes.
They don't get cast that way in sort of common discussion about them.
Not at all. And I think if we can redefine, reshape the conversation about what it means.
Yeah.
I mean, for a person to get up and go, I mean, he literally has mapped out his entire career.
I wanted you to talk some about your experience in school and whether this whole idea of a skilled trade was even discussed in school, but then also sort of where you see your career going.
When I was in school, I had the opportunity to go to CAD, and to my father always preached to get a skilled trade. But when I looked at him, like I don't want to do that. But if I would have known what it was about when I was in high school, getting out of high school, I would probably be in a totally different place because I would have jumped right into it.
Right.
It's hard work, and it's really, you make a difference.
Yeah.
That's all it's about.
And so in high school, this wasn't one of the.
It was one, but I did it in high school, and that was it.
Yeah.
It wasn't promoted.
It wasn't promoted.
It was go to school, get out of school, go to college.
Yeah.
And that's what National Apprenticeship Awareness, the president signed this into law. I mean, he motivated this, stimulated this a year ago, recognizing even from the national level, if we're going to make infrastructure investments, you have to make the same sort of parallel investments in people,
right,
and recognizing that this is a viable option, viable opportunity.
Yeah. Where do you see yourself in 5, 10, 15 years?
In 5 years, I should be invested in the 1191 union, and I plan on going from a laborer to an operator. I just want to work my way up the field. I don't want to jump and skip over any positions that I want to know everything about my trade, so I can be at the top level. Maybe I can be a foreman one day from being from here.
Sure.
Maybe I can be in the office. The sky's the limit in my field, so I'm ready to just conquer it if I can.
Dennis, I'm curious about is there enough understanding in the business community of the need to support this kind of apprenticeship, which is in some ways a cost, I suppose, to developing the workforce here in Detroit, so that you've got people participating. Do we need more businesses to focus on that?
So the climate recently, and we see this over the last maybe 4 or 5 years at the Mackinac Policy Conference, workforce.
Yeah.
So I really believe that our business community has really caught on, and now we have various stakeholders and partnerships that have formed out of those discussions over the last 4 to 5 years, and we're really trying to identify and strategically identify the best way to rebuild the skilled trades, because what a lot of people fail to remember is that the skilled trades created the middle class.
Yes, right.
So really getting back, not only getting back, but making it a better process. Yeah. And we want to be more than a middle class now. So you can use that skilled trade to, as Robert said, become an entrepreneur.
We've seen lots of discussion in Detroit about the slow pace of people participating. I know Barton Mallow is involved with the Wings project, and you cannot really talk about that because they have a spokesman and you're not that person. But the frustration that represents, I think, is very real. That Detroiters are not always in position to be the beneficiaries.
So on some of our other projects here locally, we've made a concerted effort, and it's not just in Detroit. Again, remember the trade climate, or the climate is nationwide.
Right.
We're suffering as an industry. So really making sure that people are prepared not only for current projects, but it's really a long-term commitment.
Right.
The apprenticeship program is a 4 to 5 year commitment, just as a college degree is. So understanding, well, how do I get into the skilled trades is key. You have to utilize your local services. My Road to Work is a great resource to start with. Barton Mallow, I promote that every day, how to get into the trade. So identifying key people in the community that can really help walk people through that process. We've seen a huge improvement locally.
And that website that Dan has just mentioned, Michigan, my www.michigan myroadtowork.org.
myroadtowork.
That's right.
Yeah.
.org
Right.
is a very good site to go to for all of the information that you need. You can access it 24/7 and really get a roadmap from start to finish.
How do I get from where I am to
Yes.
where I want to be?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you all for being here, and congratulations
Thank you.
to you on getting to where you are.
Yes, thank you.
All right. That's our program for today. Thanks for watching. You can get more information about our guests at AmericanBlackJournal.org, and you can always connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll see you next time.
American Black Journal is funded by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first.
How does diversity bring energy to us all? At DTE Energy, we believe that it's the contributions of all that build great communities. As a company, we grow stronger by welcoming the unique perspectives of everyone. As community members, we support our state's broad culture and heritage. From working closely with women and minority-owned suppliers to embracing our local cultures, DTE Energy is powering diversity. The DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public Television.
I